During the night and into today, Russian forces conducted another series of aerial attacks on Kharkiv using drones. The mayor of the eastern Ukrainian city, Ihor Terikov, reported that 3 explosions were heard in the city center, and a hostel was hit. Meanwhile, the head of the Kirovorad military administration announced that the number of injured from yesterday's rocket attack on Kryvyi Rih has risen to 81. In a new drone attack on Moscow, the same high-rise building that was hit on Sunday night was struck again. This was announced by the mayor of the Russian capital, Sergei Sobyanin. This suggests that Russian air defense over the city is highly ineffective. It is also interesting that there was no air raid alarm, possibly because Putin does not want to cause panic among the residents of Moscow, or it's possible that the planes were not registered by the Air Defense Command. According to TASS news agency, Vnukovo Airport in Moscow was briefly closed today. On the northeastern front, the overall situation seems unfavorable for the Russian offensive in this direction. It appears that the occupiers have squandered their offensive capabilities, and for the past 2 days, they have been losing ground. Ukrainian armed forces repelled their attacks east of Berestov and at Novoselivka. In the north, the Russians are largely stuck in the area of Lyman Pershaho and have not made significant progress for almost a week. In the Svatov area, Ukrainian forces have liberated territory that the Russians had been capturing for a week, and they are now approximately 2 kilometers from the original front line before the Russian counteroffensive in this direction. In the Andriivka and Novoselivka areas, the Ukrainians have pushed the Russians back about 4 to 5 kilometers. Heavy fighting continues in the forests southwest of Kreminna. On the Bakhmut front, Ukrainian forces have repelled Russian attacks in several places south of Bakhmut. The Ukrainians managed to advance up to the railway line above Klishivka, where fighting is still ongoing. Ukrainian forces control the entire western sector around the village, including all the hills, making Russian soldiers retreat from the battle due to the significant impact of mortar teams on the hills on Russian logistics. Ukrainian sources claim that Kaiduritsi from the Akhmut battalion, who were fighting in the village, suffered 90% losses, as only 50 members of the unit retreated from the village. According to their own statements, the Chechens had sent 500 soldiers to this sector on June 2. After a few days ago, the Ukrainians managed to advance south of Andriivka. They are now attempting to cross the railway line, which would help them improve the operational situation for an attack towards Ni and Kurdumivka. On the Donetsk front, Ukrainian armed forces conducted a counterattack in the Avdiivka area and managed to push the occupiers back from some positions east of Nevelski. Ukrainian forces also repelled enemy attacks in the Marinka and Pisky areas. Explosions have been reported in the occupied Mariupol. Russian sources claim that these are impacts from Storm Shadow missiles. On the southeastern front, Russian positions in Novodonetsk are facing increasing pressure, and Ukrainian forces hold the last road that can be used by reinforcements and supplies to reach the village under artillery fire. Ukrainian forces continue to consolidate their positions in Staromykhailivka and are attacking from there across the Mokry Yalychik River towards Urozhaini, which is partly in Ukrainian hands and is surrounded from 3 sides. Despite some partial successes in recent days, Ukrainian forces have not yet managed to enter Pributna. On the Zaporizhia front, Ukrainian forces are advancing around Robotyne, and it seems they are attempting to encircle the village. The Ukrainian advance continues towards Verbov, the first part of the Surovikin line. The majority of the territory east of Robotyne is under Ukrainian control thanks to artillery support, but they do not yet have full physical control over it. There are indications of Ukrainian advances between Kamyansky and Luhov. According to footage from Russian drones, Russian artillery shelled Ukrainian positions in the valley leading southeast from Kamyansky.